All right, guys, so I'm going to jump right in. So I'm going to give you guys a quote. The quote is, "We are born on this planet to have it all." We are born on this planet to have it all. We are born on this planet to have it all. But we are conditioned to have just enough. We are born on this planet to have it all. But we are conditioned to have enough. So I'm going to say that one more time because I want it to really resonate. We are born on this planet to have it all. And unfortunately, we are conditioned to have enough. So I heard this quote on a call I was on this past Saturday. I had a chance to jump on a call with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And the guy that was talking had built and sold a few tech companies. I mean, north of 50 million from what they said. I have no idea if it's true or not. But he was talking about how he grew up in a broken household. He grew up in the toughest part of town and where he lived. And through an unfortunate experience, he said his parents, had gotten divorced, and he was, living with his dad at the time, which he had said was an alcoholic. And but he'd done really well financially. And when he was like 10 years old, he wanted to go live with his mom. And so he had a conversation with his dad that he wanted to go live with his mom because he didn't want to be in the environment that his dad was building or his dad had him in. And his dad looked at him and was like, well, why don't you want to live with me? I don't understand. We live in a 10,000 square foot house. We have all this money. We do really well. And you're going to go live with your mom, and your mom's on welfare. It's like, I don't get it. And he couldn't, a young boy, 10 years old, didn't know how to describe how he was feeling. And he just kind of said, I just want to go live with mom. And his dad apparently took $100 bill and squeezed it up and threw it at his face. And he said, you're going to need this in a few days. Get out. And at 10 years old, this is a guy who has since gone off and educated himself and become an entrepreneur, built, again, multiple tech companies and sold them with, big paydays. And he's a motivational speaker and besides building the tech companies. And he just kind of said, it's interesting how all these people in our worlds tend to put their influence on us. They tend to, push us in a certain way to look at things and to, and again, I'm a believer, and I believe in good. I don't believe people are out to be evil and everything else. I believe deep down, especially a parent is trying to look out for their children. He described this moment of his life, and I've had a few moments like this, and not necessarily with family like that, but I had a moment in college. I remember when I got cut from my soccer team my 4th year at Penn State. I got recruited. My older brother had gone to Penn State, and he was an all Big Ten player, All-American. I got recruited into play there. I got a scholarship my first year, which was kind of unheard of. They're top 20. And after 3 years of playing for Penn State, I didn't perform. I didn't score enough goals with the amount of money they paid for my education. And I remember the day before they picked the squad my senior year, I'd just gotten back from Europe because I'd gone over there to study and gone over to play a little bit. And the coach brought me in to his office, And he sat me down, and keep in mind, the night before we had a blue-white scrimmage where the kind of the second team played the first team. 4 days later, there's a trip to Duke University where Duke and NC State were playing, and they were both top 10 in the country. Our preseason ranking was number 6 because we had a pretty good returning team. And he sat me down, coach did, the day after I had a hat trick against his starting lineup. And he sat me down and he said, you're not going to play for Penn State this year. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, oh, when you went off to Europe to study and everything else, I didn't think you were coming back. You didn't stay in touch with me. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, what are you talking about? I emailed you. I was in touch with the assistant coaches. Like, what are you talking about? But ultimately, what it came down to was his mind was made up. He had already kind of formulated his squad. Although I was a scholarship player, he'd kind of counted me out. And I remember looking at him and saying, so you're telling me that I'm not going to be on the Penn State team? And I looked him dead in the eye. I said, are you cutting me? Because being a student athlete, I don't know if you guys know this, in Division I, if you quit and you walk away from playing sports, then you give up your scholarship money. The university then takes the money and then reinvests it back into other players and other things. And I said to him, I said, I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to quit. If you cut me, that's a different story. He said, you're not playing for Penn State. You can keep your scholarship money. And I turned around, I looked at him, and 21 years old, little hothead. I said, you go blank, 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 blank. And I kind of shouldn't have said a few things. And I said, go blank your blank yourself and blank, blank, blank. And I got up, I looked at the assistant coaches, who was, very good friends of my brother's because one had played with them. And I said, do you believe in this? And he looked at me and he looked away, and I was like, I get it. And I know, not like he's gonna be like, yeah, no, I believe you and not the guy who pays me. But I got up and walked out, slammed the door, and left that situation. And I remember the next few days of my life, I went to some really dark places, really, really negative places. I didn't know about sports. I didn't know about life. I didn't know about lots of things. And it really, after a few days of basically crying for 3 days, I decided to, I was going to transfer at one point. I decided to stay and ended up playing on the kind of the club soccer team. And then I fell in love with soccer again. And we actually ended up winning a national championship for the club soccer team. It was pretty awesome. And a good group of guys, fell in love with the game again. And it was just, it was an incredible experience. And the way the story goes is the coach came back to me after that season. The team went 10-1, and they had an awful season. A majority, 4 or 5 players got hurt. And by the time the last game of the season came along, they literally had 11 players that were able to play, including 3 goalkeepers, because of injuries and people left the team and issues with the coach. So my college roommate, who was an All-American goalkeeper, was starting at forward. If you guys that know soccer, that's how bad the injuries were and everything else. And so, I look back on that experience, and that was, to me, was kind of like this moment this guy described with his dad, where I just got so, torn up and so punched in the face that I never wanted to be in a position where I wasn't in control. So when I fell into our business and the business I'm in, I remember those moments. I remember that was a time in my life that someone took something away from me that I knew I could do. And I was going to never have that happen to me again. And so when I fell into this business, I started looking around and realizing that it was based on me. It was based on my performance, based on what I put into it. And I started to use that moment and others like that as rocket fuel. It's interesting because, again, we are born here on this planet to have it all. But unfortunately, we're conditioned to settle. So that rocket fuel, again, what some people do is they take this energy of negative experiences, of their atmosphere, of what parents tell them, about maybe a sibling tells them, whatever, this toxic information, this toxic point of view, toxic things, and things that just knock you down. And sometimes people store it in their back, and they store it, in places that it just kind of slows them down. I stored it in a place to freaking push me forward, and to use it as an opportunity to really raise my level of opportunities, raise my level of performance. And I'll tell you, as this guy spoke about this, I started thinking about these moments of my life, and he said this one thing, and it made me super calm. He goes, at some point of your career, some point of your life, you're gonna have this line of demarcation. And he's like, let me describe it. And I don't know, maybe some of you have gotten to this line. So the line of demarcation is, in his point of view, and what I realized, and I kind of thought through it a lot, is there's this line where you live your life, when you go through things, with a ton of anxiety, a ton of fear, a ton of negative emotions, a ton of where something happens or someone else gets to you and you blow up on them. And again, I went through that. I've done that. And then there's this line of demarcation, which he described, and I totally agree with them, where you just realize the amount of experience you have. When you get past that line, things are just going to work out, right? So I have a friend going through something, not in our business, and I sent him an email because he sent me this long email about life. And I responded to him. I said, you're a strong human being. You've been through a lot already in your life. This is like other things that you've gone through. And I know your strength is going to come through and show in this scenario, just like it has in the past. And you will get through this and become a victor, not a victim. And and I believe that people use these things they go through to do that. Now, it's so easy to be a victim. It is so easy in the world, because frankly, most people don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to change. It's hard to change. It's hard to evolve. I remember one point in my life, I didn't want to grow up because I didn't want to be old. I wanted to be a kid still. I used to go out and party on a Wednesday night in the field and do all this stuff. I remember Michael, the guy who taught me business, pulled me aside and he goes, your maturity level is the reason you don't have anyone that wants to follow you. I was like, tell me how you really feel. Right. But that, it was true. The reason why no one wanted to follow me across the street, and I had a limited team and limited people want to follow me, is because I wasn't worth following. And that hurt deep down. But I also realized, listen, my goals and what do I want to accomplish was more important to me than being an immature 20-something. And so I made changes, and I started thinking, man, it's right. I mean, he wouldn't tell me this if he didn't care about me. He wouldn't tell me this if I didn't, have potential. And so I started to make changes. And so before that line of demarcation, anxiety, fear, emotions, reactions. When you get to that line of demarcation, there's going to be calmness. There's experience. Now, the thing is most of you guys, in my opinion, and just looking on the screen and knowing the staff that's on today and everything else, are probably nowhere near that line of demarcation. It just is what it is. Because I know for me, I wasn't. And so you're going to go through a lot. And so my message to you is, if you're going through these things and you're going through the anxieties, the fears, the emotions of screwing something up, and people losing faith in you, and then you got to show up again the next day for people who still believe in you. All I can say to you guys is enjoy the ride. I have a friend of mine who called me in the last few days who's going through something else, right? And I said to him, I'm so happy for you. I am so happy for you. And he's like, what? I'm like, this is so good for you. You have no idea how good this is. And after talking for a little bit, he's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. And he's on the call today, so I'm not going to say any names or whatever, but he's like, and I could tell. And then the one thing I love about him, and he knows I'm talking about him right now, is he's open to shifting the mentality. He's open to seeing things the way I see it, because he knows long term he's going to be taken care of. So that line of demarcation. Now I tell you, the fuel, the toxic fuel, again, it can bring you down. What I like to use that fuel, that anxiety, that fear, the people who question you, the people say, oh, that's never going to work. Oh, that's bullshit, blah, blah. I would encourage you to turn it into higher octane. You know, I don't know if you guys ever driven a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or I don't know, an Audi R8, but they're freaking awesome to drive. And I can tell you, you don't put in basic fuel to a Ferrari. You put in premium, right? You put in the best in a Ferrari because it responds. I know when I drive my Range Rover, like the difference when different people fill up the tank. I won't say anyone who does, but there's premium fuel that I put in, and then there's other fuel, and I can feel the difference when I push the gas. And so I encourage you guys to use that fuel, because if you're like me and you believe that your leadership lid, and everyone has a leadership lid, and I'm going to describe what this is. The leadership lid is where you are in your experience and where you are in your education, where you are in mentoring people. And in order to grow through that leadership lid, you have to go through more things. You have to screw up more to increase your leadership lid. Now, when you're hiring people, coaching people, mentoring people, if your lid is still here and someone else's leadership lid is higher than yours, frankly, they may not be so interested in learning from you. And that's okay. If you happen to recruit, hire, train someone that has a higher leadership lid based on experiences or whatever, all you got to do is be smart and get someone else that's in your corner to help support that individual until you work your way up and have experiences to be able to coach them. So you got to increase that leadership lid. All right. The law of the lid. The law of the lid. The study of this is, if just to give you guys an analogy, they had this Peachtree dish of flies. And what the analogy was, or what the study was, is they put these flies in a dish, they put a clear top on it, and the flies would jump for a period of time. They kept jumping. And then over a period of time, 30 days, whatever, they ended up taking off the clear lid. And then they waited 30 days and tried to figure out how many of those flies jumped out of the Petri dish or whatever, out of the cup or whatever. And they were kind of astonished to realize that none of the flies jumped out of the lid. And it kind of goes back to my quote. The reason why the flies didn't jump out of the lid, and the reason why, unfortunately, people, you know, I was told by one of my business coaches recently, he said, Ken, the number one thing you can do if you want to be a great dad is continue pushing yourself to a higher level of success. The number one thing you can do, because your kids, unfortunately or fortunately, the studies show that majority of children never surpass their parents when they grow up. So majority of children. So think about it. So if your parents were a certain level of success or whatever, you know, unless you're like me and you kind of push your way through it and you kind of knock it down or whatever, and you want to make major change, the statistics say majority of children don't go beyond the success of their parents. And so when I think of my kids and I want what I want for them, that's why I want them to see me wake up every day and go to the gym. I want them to see me wake up every day and push my goals. I want them to see me, you know, work and drive and travel and build my business, get it bigger and bigger and bigger, because I want them to see dad working. I don't want them to see me. I mean, although they do sometimes, I don't want them to see me just around the house hanging out and not working, because I want them to know if they want a certain level of success that they're going to have to work for it. So the law of the lid, it's a crazy, crazy thing. All right. The next thing I want to share with you guys is the Gsd method. The Gsd method. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. Gsd. The only way that you're going to succeed at what you're doing is if you get shit done. Get shit done. And you're going to come across a lot of people. They're going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to be, and then they're not going to get shit done. They're going to, you know, and what we do retail, right? People are like, I'm going to set the pace, I'm going to whatever. And then right at 7 o'clock at the end of their shift, they're out. It's weird. Like if you do B2B sales for me back in the day, end of the day is like 4 or 5 o'clock, right when 5 hits, I'm out. Like I've learned, if you want to get shit done and you want to really grow in business, if you work in a small business, 9 to 5 is to pay your bills. Everything after 5 o'clock is for your future. If you work in a retail setting and you do like 11 to 7 or whatever that is, that's like normal hours. Again, that's for your, you know, to pay your bills. Everything before or after is for your future. You know, and listen, the world's just competitive. I don't know if you guys know this, but in some cultures, the kids go to school for 12 hours. And in these same cultures, they have more people with master's degrees than actual, you know, Americans have degrees. It's like, it's proven facts. And so again, there's something to say about work ethic. And if you're learning something new and you want to get ahead, just remember your work ethic will be a major difference in what you want to accomplish. And most of the time it's when nobody's watching and no one's going to be there to cheer you on. No one's going to be there to hold you accountable. It's because in your heart, you know that you want more. And again, it's because, in my opinion, and listen, for the quote that really hit home for me was, we are born here on this planet to have it all. And unfortunately, we're conditioned to have enough. So I encourage you guys to ask yourself, just with what we learned, what we talked about today, am I using the toxic fear, all these things, am I using it as rocket fuel? Or is it a fuel that weighs me down and gets me not to do what I know I need to be doing? Are you putting the right fuel? Are you at line of demarcation? Are you pushing towards, you know, being a better human? You know, again, when people go through things, I've realized, because you know, and to me, just to be clear, I just built this retail business in the last 2 years. I decided 18 years into my career to go into Target stores and be a sales rep for about 6 months straight. I wasn't in there every day, but I was in there pretty consistently, being the pace setter in the office. Because I knew I had this thought of where this thing could go. And I knew that through going through that experience and really fine-tuning myself and my business, that we would catapult as an organization for opportunities. And going through that, looking back on it, when this guy talked about this line of demarcation, I realized that that line of demarcation happened for me 18 years into my career, where now I look at things, I look at people, I do my best to support them. And, you know, listen, there's some people that will tell me in an interview that they're going to be amazing, they're going to be on time, they're going to do all this stuff. And I remember when they didn't, because they're full of shit, that it used to bother me a lot. It used to really get to me emotionally, because I cared about them. But now I just know that, listen, the cream rises to the top, that people will work their way through things. They will make the decisions to get out and do what they have to do. And I have this like calmness about me. And it's funny because my wife even said something to me recently about some of the choices that we've made and some of the moves we made in business. And, you know, and it's a really cool place to be in life and in your career, because it's just calm and fun and there's really nothing that bothers you. And, you know, it's, I don't know, I think of a coach of mine named Gary, and I always wondered why he was so calm. But he's far beyond this line of demarcation, in my opinion. But again, keep in mind, we're born here to have it all. Use any negativity going on in the world, in relationships, whatever, use it as the octane fuel in your Ferrari to get you moving, to get you pushing, to get you to accomplish. And remember, you gotta blow through that and push through that law of the lid. You can have it all in this world. You just have to make the decisions to do that. And, you know, listen, along the way, there's going to be people that'll, you know, be in your life because they were supposed to teach you things. And it may not be, you know, good things, but they're going to teach you things. And just remember, a relationship does not have to be permanent to be successful. It's hard to look at life that way, but it's true. Happy Friday. Thanks for jumping on today, guys. Enjoy. Please subscribe. KLear channel on YouTube. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.